I want to greet everybody in celebration worship and crosswalk worship. And I want you to give a great East Texas welcome to the world's greatest athlete, Bryan Clay. Thank you. Well, we're excited about this afternoon at 5:30 over in the Crosswalk Conference Center, and that's really where we're going to let you talk more about your Olympic experience, particularly in Beijing. We're going to be showing videos of his events there and letting him talk about that. But today, this morning, I want to talk to you more about who you are as a person, as a follower of Jesus Christ, and a husband and a father. A lot of times when people look at you and you've reached the pinnacle of success in your career, they just sort of assume that you had sort of an ideal, perfect home life growing up. Tell us a little bit about your life growing up.
Yeah, well, life for me was far from perfect or ideal, I think. It wasn't, of course, the worst childhood you could ever have, but it also wasn't the best childhood, I think. My mom and my dad got divorced when I was in, I think, 5th or 6th grade. And with that came all kinds of trials and tribulations, and had a stepdad that stepped into the picture very shortly after that. But it all started when my mom was, one day she came up to me before school and she said, "Bryan, would you still love mommy if she wasn't here?" And I thought, my mom can kind of be a little needy sometimes and need the reassurance. And so I said, "Of course I would. Like, I mean, why are you even bothering me with this?" And later that night, my mom didn't come home. She had left my dad, myself, and my brother. And I thought up until this year, I thought it was only about 2 weeks or so that she was gone. I found out she was actually gone for 3 months. She came up here to Texas. I was born in Austin. And so she had come back up to Texas to meet up with an old boyfriend. And that old boyfriend had become a Christian. And when she got up here, he took her to church. My mom became a Christian. And then she, of course, came back to fulfill her responsibilities and things as a mother to my brother and myself, and as a wife to my dad. But that's when things kind of got a little crazy at our house. I had a Christian mom who was on fire for Christ, wanted her family going to church and all those types of things. And then I had a non-Christian father who didn't want anything to do with Christ. Actually was raised as a Christian, but kind of fell away from that, didn't really want to have anything to do with that lifestyle at that point. And so it was just constant clashes. I mean, there was the physical abuse, and my brother and I hiding in our bedroom, and until the screaming and the dishes breaking and all that kind of stuff stopped, and we'd come out and kind of assess the damage and see, okay, how do we get back into life and start moving through. So anyways, they got divorced. Bad situation. I can remember sitting in the courtroom getting ready to have to decide who I wanted to live with, my mom or my dad. And I remember my mom's sister coming up to me and saying, "Now, when the judge asks you, you need to pick your dad." And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. But my mom's always kind of been the black sheep of the family a little bit. And I remember in 6th grade deciding that I would choose my mom because my dad would understand. And if I didn't choose my mom, I didn't think she'd ever forgive me. And so, those are kind of decisions that you have to deal with. I remember being at school, and the only time I got to see my dad, because there was a restraining order on him, he would sneak to the school bus stop, and at recess, I would go and sit at the fence and talk to my dad through the fence. And that was the only time I got to see my dad. So not an ideal childhood. My mom, of course, didn't have her license when they first got divorced, and didn't really have a good paying job and those types of things. So I remember being on welfare and going and eating cereal with water, and doing some crazy things like that. I mean, we definitely were struggling for a while. And all that to say, she got remarried. My stepdad moved us over to Kaneohe, which is on the other side of the island of Hawaii, which is where I grew up. And things kind of took a little different turn at that point.
Well, I know you said after your mom became a Christian, she started taking you and your brother to church.
Right.
But there was someone else, like a junior high school pastor, who had a great influence on your life. Tell me about that.
Right. So when my mom got remarried to my stepdad, she started to take us to church, of course, on where we moved to, which was in Kaneohe on the other side of the island. And when we started going to church there, I was still, I tell everybody, I wasn't a good kid. I was a really bad kid, actually. I was making some really bad decisions. I mean, at a very young age, was already exposed to drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So that was all part of my lifestyle, things that I was doing. And so I was making some pretty bad decisions, and got into church with my brother, and met my junior high pastor. And when I met my junior high pastor, his name was Richard Ainsworth. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable. I don't know how to explain to you how much of an impact he's had on my life. Of course, like I said, I wasn't making good decisions. I was getting into fights all the time, fighting with my stepdad. I mean, all this crazy stuff. And when I was in between all of that, when I was running away from home and all those types of things, my mom would call on Richard to come because she couldn't do it. She just couldn't handle me anymore. And Richard would come. He'd just surprise me at school, come pick me up from school, and he'd take me to do things like go fishing. And that's what I really needed at that point in my life. I didn't need another authority figure or a dad or something like that. I needed someone, a godly Christian, man that I could be in the presence of, that we didn't have to talk. We could just, there was just a, I don't know, just a connection. And so we would go and we would stand in waist-high water and we'd fish, and the sun would be going down, and we'd just stand there, and he would just show me love, God's love. No judgment, no nothing. And man, I can't tell you how much that did for me as a young, almost teenager, adolescent, kind of going through what I was going through. And it just spoke volumes for me and really planted the seeds for what God's love really was like in my life.
So were you involved in athletics, sports in junior high school and high school as well?
I was. I did track and field in junior high school, which I would say was more like club track and field, just during the summers and things like that. And then I got into high school and I joined the cross country team and ran track, and I did okay. I think I finished up with 4 state records in my senior year, placed second in the team standings, and I was the only person from my team, so that was kind of fun. It's kind of nice to tell everybody kind of my stats and stuff when I was growing up, but really it was kind of just an amazing time for me in my life, finding something that I was good at, finding out that I had some gifts and abilities that I could really dive into and be passionate about, and it kind of, I think it was all in God's plan as I look back on my life.
Well, I know that a huge part of your testimony is how you met your wife, Sarah, and how she influenced your life. And so I'm kind of giving a cue to our cameraman, because I would like, Sarah, for you to stand up and let us just see you and welcome you to Green Acres. Sarah Clay, everybody. So, I love the story. I've heard it before, even before you came here, about how she influenced your life. So just tell us about going to college and meeting her.
Yeah, so like I said, I was making bad decisions in junior high school, bad decisions in high school, and nothing changed when I went to college. I went to a small Christian school, Azusa Pacific University. Not sure why I chose Azusa Pacific where I was at in my life, because I knew that I was going to be going to church, that everybody there was going to go to church on Sundays for fun, and that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I knew that you were going to have to go to chapel 3 times a week, and I really went to the school with kind of the mindset that if I get kicked out, I don't really care. So anyways, needless to say, I get there, I meet a girl, and she'll tell you that she does not remember meeting me, but I remember it, of course. And so I try to remind her of it, and she's like, what? I don't remember that at all. So a little humbling for me, but but I remember we met on the track team. She was on the track team with me, and we held hands during a prayer, and that was the first time I met her. And a little while after that, she was walking across the street, and I was sitting in the car with some friends, and I said, that's the kind of girl I think I could marry. There was something that I couldn't get enough of when I saw her, when I was with her. And so we started dating shortly after that, and I would say that our beginning part of the dating time that we had together wasn't very good. She would say that she doesn't even like to talk about the first 2 years of our dating because it was so bad. We were constantly breaking up and getting back together, and it was this constant struggle, much like my parents, where my mom was a Christian and my dad wasn't, and they were just constantly battling, and that's what our relationship was like the first 2 years. I mean, it got really bad. I was sitting here trying to pull her down because all I wanted to do was have fun, and she was constantly trying to stand her ground and pull me up because she knew who I really was. She knew the real Bryan Clay, not the kind of one that everybody else knew. And after a while, she just got tired of it. And she said, look, I'm done. And she went ahead and broke up with me. And I thought, no big deal. We'll get back together after the summer. You're lost. We'll have, I'll go out and have fun, and we'll kind of, we'll rekindle everything once you get back. And she got back from summer vacation, and she had some other ideas and started going out and hanging out with other guys and dating other guys. And I would kind of ask her about it, and she'd say, oh, no, we're just having fun. But I had all my spies out kind of, telling me what was going on and all that kind of stuff. So I knew what was really happening. And it was at that time that I realized that I may have just messed up something that I really, really cared about. Probably one of the only things that I really cared about in life. I might have just messed that up. And so, of course, I went into panic mode, and I started trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? And when she wouldn't return any of my phone calls, I mean, I'd call her all the time, and she'd just ignore all of my phone calls because it would go straight to voicemail. And I'm like, she's hit end again. But I started to realize that the term heartache, was a real term. I was sitting in my dorm room, and you can imagine I've got, my sleeping bag and my pillow because we don't have any furniture. But I had enough money. I saved enough money to get my phone turned on and have cable, because that's a necessity for guys in college. So I had cable, and I'm sitting there, and when I'm calling and calling, she wouldn't answer. I'm just hurting inside of me. My chest is literally aching, and I'm nauseous, and I don't want to eat. And my roommates are walking by looking at me like, you are the most pitiful person I've ever seen in my entire life. And so word gets back to Sarah, and I'm sitting there praying, and I'm like, Lord, if you just let her call me, I'll know that there's a chance, and I'll change everything. I'll do it all different. And sure enough, one day I'm sitting there staring at the phone, praying about this, and God, allows the phone to ring, and I yank it up, and I'm like, hello, and it's her, and she's like, hey, I hear things aren't going so well. Why don't you let me come get you, and we'll go get some lunch.